Hi guys, and welcome to October. And yay, we are in Libra transit. So happy birthday to all Libras. And let's see what's going on. So really quick intro about astrological constellations and everything that we need to kind of like work on. Guys, do not forget to check your ascendant and check your moon sign, because that's sort of like going to give you different aspects of yourself. And of course, if this jives with you, you can contact me for the private reading. So let's see what is the biggie happening in the sky. And my astrology is really different. You know, nobody's going to tell me this is the way you need to do, because to me tarot is like so much more potent than astrology. So let's kind of like move into that. This week, both Mercury and in tarot, we have the Magician representing Mercury, so you can actually see the energy instead of just me telling you about Mercury. It's going to move into Scorpio, and that fiery Mars is actually moving in Libra. So Mercury is really, as you know, during Mercury retrograde, communication issues. So yes, it kind of like symbolizes how we talk and think, and how do we really exchange things, how do we communicate, right, with each other, with ourselves, kind of like pulling things together. It kind of like really talks about what we do daily, talks about short trips, and also kind of like trade and commerce and exchanges like of that kind of like sort. Meanwhile, Mars, which actually it's not ruled by Emperor. Oops, wrong, because Aries is kind of like ruler of Mars, but Mars really, and this is going to be hell of a reveal when I tell you. For those of you who know, you already know which card I'm going to pull. This actually is Mars card, Tower. And so Mars is basically all about energy. So when it kind of like occurs in our charts, it's kind of like boosting the activity of this area. So let's put it in perspective, because Mars is now showing up during Libra transition, and this is Libra card. In the background, we just have Saturn that went direct, and so now, if you're on my newsletter, you knew that we actually shifted to new timelines. It was like few things simultaneously happening, and if you felt last month being kind of heavy and you didn't know what's going on, and you felt like you're climbing the walls and you're just like falling flat down, there was a reason for it. Please sign for my newsletter so you will be in the know. So when we kind of like have the Mars coming through, it's kind of like boosting the chart in our in that area, right? Activity of that area. So we are going to start feeling shift in our daily habits and conversations, and we will become more active in kind of like that area where sort of like that Mars joins the sun, wherever your sun is, and just kind of like, you need to remember the secret of life is really having low expectations. With Saturn kind of like that went direct, there are like no procrastination anymore. I think summer was, most of us had the excuse it was the summer, of course, for those of us in northern hemisphere, but in the southern hemisphere, winter was excuse. It's winter, I don't feel like it's sluggish. So we both kind of had the same excuse. But this kind of like all ended on September 18th at 13 degrees Capricorn. And this Saturn is the Lord of Karma, and it kind of like does feel, Capricorn is his ruler, but it's almost like the middle finger, right, when it is reversed, right? So retrograde motion is basically time when karma is sorted out, because this is the planet of karma. And so therefore Saturn retrograde is a double dose of that karma. So if you guys didn't get karma reading with me, it's very intense. It really tells you, hey, this is what you did in past life. This is what you promised to yourself. With all the wisdom, you're going to kind of like drag in this one. You want to resolve it. You know, like when we can, today I'm going to really kind of like handle this. That's kind of like, it's the entire life chart. So when and what was happening, it kind of like felt that past and present and future kind of like blurred together. And if you have been in the past and kind of like dealing with that, you know, events occur to teach us a lesson. And Saturn is generally difficult ruler. It's kind of like, did you learn it? I really need you to know. And when I ask you this question, when I wake you up from a dream, you will get it. Not only that you're going to tell me blah, blah, blah. So the lessons that have been associated with Saturn retrograde kind of like really relate to our thoughts and our words. Some of us decided, hey, I'm going to communicate better. I'm not going to be quick to curse. And you're going to see that people will be cleaning their language. People who didn't clean the language, who continues to kind of like be mean and jump quickly to conclusions and to judgments, these people stayed on different old timelines. So what does that mean? That means you still have issues, you didn't resolve them. The bad part is going to last 12 years. So ask yourself if you really shifted or you didn't shift it, or you're just simply repeating the old patterns from the past. This in particular is going to be especially challenging if you have history of teasing or verbally abusing people. And this is becoming very prevalent. All of us kind of a little bit guilty of that. Internet is like a sneaky place where you just want to, you dislike my nail polish. You dislike something. I'm going to just tell you. We need to kind of pull back with Saturn, because Saturn is telling us, really, is this really who you are? And now turning direct is giving us a much brighter outlook, especially for making really important decisions about your home, your family, and relationships. So ta-da, everything is here. And when we are going through Libra transit, it's really talking about a major transformation. So this is where we are almost like, think about it, we have building our case, we kind of like made advances, we kind of like are understanding the areas of life which you kind of like need to do it. The Tower is saying, okay, this is collapsing, and we need to collapse certain areas of our lives and say rebuild, rebuild, rebuild. But then, Mercury is saying to us, you can do it. You have all the tools. You have been through all the lessons. You just need to pull it together, and you need to detangle anything that has been going on. Look at how powerful this month will be. So let's just jump in and see what is particularly important for your own sign. Hello, my Leo, and welcome to your October chart. So let's see. First of all, thank you. You guys are still leading the pack. Mind you, Cancer was just a few clicks and shares away from you, so they might actually crawl over you. So let's see if you're going to let them. Especially with this planetary kind of configuration that actually we will have this month. So the sun is basically flitting through Libra, which is like your social, it's your third house, right? Which is like social and innovation kind of a thing. So your schedule is going to be packed. So make sure you take your vitamins, make sure you exercise, because it's going to be lots of energy, right? So you'll have lots of meetings, you'll have lots of gatherings, and you'll have millions of ideas really going through your head, and you will be also really quick and eager to share them, right? So I really think there's going to be lots of sparks that will feel like, if you meet new people, like synergy. It's going to really feel that people around you are really supportive of you, right? So this is about that Libra season. It's until the 23rd, and so you could actually really meet kindred spirits. And every turn, this doesn't necessarily mean the gender that you like, but it could definitely mean that. For some of you, it's clearly going to be the beginning of something else. So, and for the others, it could be like, finding the perfect pet. You will feel that one friend is like peeking out, kind of a thing, right? So this is going to be even more intense from October 4th to, I believe, November 19th, when you really have that Mars. So Mars is energizer, right? And so that's really soaring through Libra. And that's kind of like going to kind of like heat up very kind of like an interesting dialogue, right? And it's kind of like going to really make you want you to kind of like really, really pair up. This also might translate into your work. Maybe it's going to be a project where you're going to become maybe a spokesperson for possibly a charity, or it's going to be some kind of cause you're going to sink your teeth in, and you are going to kind of like white knuckles, you're kind of like driving it, right? This also can actually talk about some kind of a community activism. It could be something related to elections. It could be something relating to your pet project. It could be something that is really dear to you, that kind of like somebody pushes the button and off you go. You're kind of like really turned on, right? So it's going to be time of leadership over here. The only thing that I really want to warn you is that Mars can add excitement and stress in equal doses. So what do you get when you kind of like put two of them together? So Mars is aggressive, but it's kind of like a ruler of your brother planet or sister planet Aries. I would say brother because it's kind of aggressive in nature. So you might come across as pushy, or you might come across as combative if you are not really careful, right? So kind of like first see when you're communicating with somebody that you kind of like start gentle, very kind of like nice, easy tone, right? Because in Libra, Mars is what they call it in detriment, meaning like it's a weak position. Why? Because Libra is opposite of Aries, because Aries is basically Mars is the ruler of Aries, right? So Mars is that warrior planet, and if you remember from introduction, Tower is right there, and so question is like, what is really needed to be here? So it might be hard to find kind of like and get in sync, or kind of like find the right tone kind of like at some kind of like point over here. So also Pluto, as I mentioned, like starting October 3rd, it's ending a 5-month retrograde through Capricorn, and this is falling in your 6th house of health, organization, and analytical thinking. So this started on April 24th, and you maybe felt you had lots of issues. It was like about control, it was about micromanaging, and maybe there have been power struggles, especially with coworkers, employees, and possibly with some kind of like sibling rivalry, I would say. Maybe you have been dealing with health issue, maybe you have been dealing with anxiety, and that's basically what happens with the kind of like shadowy Pluto, right? Maybe it was just simply stress. You kind of like couldn't put your finger on certain things, but kind of it was there. So now when Pluto is kind of like going forward, it's kind of like resuming this motion. Chaos finished. That book can be filed kind of like together. So let's see what you have here. I'm going to just simply tell you what you got, because not everybody is familiar with my cat cards, and you have lots and lots and lots of measures. This is going to be monumental month for you guys. So you have the Empress over here. Then you have Cat Magic, or the Magician. You have the Floating Cat, the Hangman. You have the Moon. You have Grace, or Temperance over here. You have Consequences, or Justice. This is basically the transition we are going through. So you just don't have two majors. So you have Strength, which is your card. This is something that you have been dealing in the past. Then you have 8 of Fire, or 8 of Wands, and then you have Fire Tom. This is extraordinary. As you can see, I'm kind of like shuffling with intuition this time around, because Libra, and I'm allowing just the messages come to me instead of kind of like force them through it. When you get this many majors, 3, 5, 7, there are only 22 majors. Look at how many more cards I have. This is huge. You guys can climb mountain this particular month, right? And so with everything that we are kind of like putting behind, it looks like to me you're putting lots of things behind. This is kind of like falling sort of like in the past over here. This is the card that represents you, strength, right? And isn't this a lovely representation? We have the kitty cat, which is exercising some form of patience or some form of, hey, you know, I'm the ruler here. I don't need to eat you. I don't need to plaque you. I'm just here, sure, feel my strength, and I am testing myself not to do certain things. So it almost like feels like that you have transitioned and it came to a situation where you feel that you really kind of like want to, you're ruler, you're kind of like coming in yourself, you're kind of understanding how to get there, how to be here, right? But it was linked with the moon. And the moon energy, as you can see, kitties actually see really well in the dark. So in this particular deck, I kind of like see the moon card differently. I see this as a hunting, as a focus card, versus in the other decks, moon is giving us this dizziness of, oh my gosh, I am not so sure if I'm going in a good direction. But I also see a little bit of that as well over here. So this is really talking about nocturnal energy. It is really talking about precision is not there. It is really talking about psychic hunches. Maybe it was like something about maternity over here, or it was like about luxury. This also kind of like represents Libra, and this represents Libra, the energy we are going through. So you actually will almost like think about in journeying, you're going to embarking on some kind of journey over here where certain things from the past might come back in the future. It could be something that you have been alerted in your past, which could have been confusion, which could have been inability or shock about how you deal with certain things and how do you move it forward, right? Because after all, here you also have this energy of justice. There was like something that needed to come in balance. Maybe you were completely kind of thrown off your game and needed to come back because, hey, the grace is over here. There is like this striking this perfect balance and kind of like understanding that yes, you're a fire element, but you need to bring all of the elements, all of these aspects of yourself in order to push it forward. So in the present, you have this cat magic, temperance, and 8 of fire. It could be travel over here, clearly. It could be lots of messages happening. It could be expression of love. It could be kind of like a motion forward. I absolutely love this card with these zoomies. Anybody who has a pet, we kind of like know it kind of like gets into them and they simply need to burn this energy. It's almost like you have $10 or $100, whatever, but you only have 10 minutes to use it. So yeah, kind of like frantic energy over here, right? So this is also a sister kind of like a thing. This is a really good tangent and something that is happening, something that is evolving, something that you are still working on, that obtaining a better kind of like vantage point, a different perspective. This is also interesting, kind of like going maybe back and forth from kind of like how do you see in the future, like understanding certain position, understanding that maybe you need to step back, maybe you need to kind of like see when things got complicated. Sometimes we're in a situation which kind of like feels like we really cannot solve it. So what do? You just go back to the place where you got lost, where you took that wrong left turn or wrong right turn, get back to that intersection, move it back and navigate and wiggle through it. Yeah, you might kind of like burn your tail a little bit out of curiosity. After all, this is Fire Tom. I also see, guys, a very strong Sagittarius energy over here. For some of you, it might be time of reckoning. There's like a time to reconcile two ends. Reconcile, something needs to be said. Something needs to be communicated, like your big ideas. As I said, this is that community that I told you astrological that we really see, right? So if somebody is giving you constructive feedback, because this is both positive and negative in one, that's why I'm calling this a karma card, and this is a 1 and this is 1 here, like we can see this progress that is really happening over here. It's going to be also energy that is going to be so powerful that you're going to guys feel like you're in a completely different space. These two cards that mirror each other have the same vibrational energy, right? Which is really amazing. And it kind of like almost looks like you're moving strategically. You're taking things as a pro. Like a winning attitude sometimes means when people hammer you down, when you really probably would just have a knee-jerk reaction and tell them off, you're going to go, okay, so let me hear it. I don't need to take it. I don't need to act on it. But why am I hearing this? And maybe it's going to be something that's going to turn the light on and say, huh, so this is how they see me. This is really what I really need to kind of like do, right? If you get constructive feedback, judgment, or somebody's like really telling something like you, so it might be that this is basically a test to see if you have learned this kind of like, you have like those two eights. This is really calling you, 8 being your number, and 8 is like infinity, sleeping infinity kind of a thing, right? So do not have it as a sense of entitlement when somebody tells you something and no, you're going to tell them better, right? I also feel that you will have something really happening around October 27th, plus minus 3 days, because Mars then repeats sort of like a conflicting angle to Saturn. It might kind of like feel like, again, you see that you have this here with one foot on the gas and one on the brake. So car is like completely confused. So it's mirroring that moon. It's going to be coming something from the past, coming back to service, which kind of like really needs to kind of like really deal with that, right? So you guys are also going to, in the mid-October, feel that you're reaching a completely clarity, right? That full moon, and we have the moon in Aries. It's going to make you feel adventurous. Maybe you're going to start reading philosophy or religion, or as I said, community planning of some kind of like sort, right? You will be really dealing, everything is going to feel big. You're not going to feel, oh, I just need to do the laundry and do this. No, you're going to feel, today I need to change the world. That's how big this month is going to be, right? So it's almost like going to feel that you are launching something new. You are going in this direction. And this new direction might be, as I said, tricky. You might not be completely committed, or you might not know exactly how you're going to get there. You see, water signs generally would not go with that kind of attitude, but you're saying, okay, maybe I don't know every nook and cranny on this highway where I want to take, but I know how to get from here to here, and then I trust that is going to kind of like continue, that I'll be kind of like putting these points together. I really think, ultimately, I think with kind of like temperance over here, kind of like really centralizing your reading from all of these majors that are really happening over here, it's really telling you that this is going to be a character building month. So anything good that happens, great, celebrate, which tells you, hey, you can do it, you can move forward. It's going to be almost like behavior modification. And so, as I said, if somebody has their 2 cents that they want to put in, kind of like it's going to be some kind of turning point for you. You're going to also have people who, you're going to look at people around you in a different light. You're going to say, are these people really my friends? Are these people just passengers in my life? And am I really benefiting them the way I should? You're going to feel like big times like a leader, and big times kind of like moving forward, right? So still, you will need to work a little bit on your nerves because of that Pluto. Pluto rules unconscious, right? That's kind of like ruling Scorpio, which is another fixed sign over here, and that can kind of like cause you sometimes to second guess. And this is kind of like, here we also kind of like pick up on this energy, right? You might have to deal with challenge, and challenge will be also that you might actually encounter skeptical people. So let's say you want to organize something, and you know how people are. People are programmed, well, that you're not successful. So they might tell you, oh, well, yeah, I know you're enthusiastic. I admire your passion. I'm not sure it's going to work. So they might kind of cause you to second guess the merits of your ideas, or kind of like sending you into kind of like analysis paralysis, kind of like as they call it, right? Now, if those skeptical people, that skepticism kind of like, if these people kind of like go out of their way and kind of like tell you, and they spend so much energy telling you why your plans won't really work, then you really need to know these are your fears. These are your fears projecting into kind of like reality. You really need to kind of like sharpen your ideas. You need to get your research in order. But you need to champion your vision. So just think about it, like those like reactionaries and community builders and revolutionaries. What do you think? They just had the smooth sailing? They had no storms? Yeah, they did. Now, guys, you need to get a little burnt to move forward. Like nothing meaningful in life happens without struggle. Remember this. Let's say you get without struggle love, money, prestige, everything. We've seen that in celebrities, especially in kid celebrities. They don't know the value of that, and they crash and burn. There's drugs, there's like something. I mean, Justin Bieber is a really good example over here. It's just like, what do I do with all of that, right? So it is really important for you to achieve this balance. This is the card of balance. This is a card of balance. This is a card of balance. And it's telling you, just because you're a mover and shaker, just because you're a leader, do not forget work-life balance, family, friend balance. You guys are going to be curious. You guys are going to be a little bit unpredictable, and it's going to be something professional that is really, really happening, or it could be, because, Uranus is in Taurus, which is your career zone. You might actually kind of like, this kind of like rules, kind of like technology, right? Uranus, you might kind of like set some rules. Hey, you know what? After 8 o'clock, don't bother me. I'm turning my phone and I really need to do something at 8 o'clock. It's like so many things I want and I need to do that, but I cannot do that if everybody's contacting me. And all of this motion, as I told you, like prepare your appointment book, it's going to be really, really interesting. Also remember that on Halloween, Mercury turns retrograde in Scorpio all the way until November 20th. Woo, oh la la. So we are going in the shadow around 11th, and you have this 11 here really showing up. So make sure that when you communicate, clarity is always there. Like you have to dot all your I's and cross all your T's. Otherwise, it can create unnecessary step backs. I also see that some of you might really have that pair up with someone. It could be like really fast love affair. That for some of you might be like huge freaking wedding. It's going to feel like a thrill. It's going to feel like it's turning my life upside down. This person could be a fire sign. This person could be Libra, Sagittarius, Pisces, Leo, Taurus, or possibly Gemini. I can see like a huge influence of these signs. And if you have somebody who represents this sign already in life, just watch them and watch what they tell you. Do not get reactive. Do not get defensive. There's going to be something where this energy is actually going to benefit you this month. So my dear Leo, thank you so much for waiting until the end of the video, and hopefully this was a valuable information to you. If you guys are not on my newsletter, please visit my website. If not, to get this like free reading through my app that I positioned there, at least that you sign up for a newsletter. Also, to get a reading with me, contact me via cattarot.ca. And you guys know that I love you. So until the next time, all the best and have a wonderful October.